What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is a live show. Today we're going to go over everything that has happened over the weekend, and of course today, which is a holiday for most. We're going to talk about it all and more on this live show. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on? Remember, you can sign up for our alerts and our notifications instead of getting them from this platform. Go over to marfooglenews.com and check it out. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you're new here, my name is Adam, aka Marf, and this is, of course, a live show. We're going to go over a whole lot in a short amount of time, so remember, you can always follow along on our website. When you go over to marfooglenews.com, you'll see it's very easy to navigate, done by thumbnail. When you look, you'll see dystopia coming in hot, of course, and then once you click on that thumbnail, it will bring you to a bibliography of sources. Again, we try to back up every single picture, tweet, video, article, archived document that we show you here today will be on our website. That way you know exactly where we are getting our stories from, where we are getting our information. If we do share an opinion, we will, of course, try to clarify to do so you know that it's our opinion versus fact. Now, again, there's a lot here to unpack today, so we'll get right into it. But I do want to remind you, down at that bottom of the page, once you hit that yellow bar, you're going to be hitting web-only content. That is the stuff that is too hot for TV, too far to one direction for us to cover neutrally, or at least somewhat neutrally, and the stuff that is basically, it's too hot. So make sure to check that out. That's a whole nother show. All of this is put together for free for you. It is done again before every single live show. And then on the right side, if you do want to support us, if you already shop with Amazon, if you use that box over on the right, that again will help support us. It won't cost you anything more, and it will help us keep running the show. And then, of course, there are PayPal, there are affiliates over there, EMP Shield if you want to protect yourself against EMP. And then again, if you want to stock up on any kind of supplies, my Patriot Supply is in the upper right-hand corner. Thank you. That is how the ecosystem works as far as us goes, because we talk about controversial subjects. So let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. What is going on today, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I think I'm just a bit chilly here. It's kind of cold with this big winter weather thing coming through.
Yeah, it's weird because it was actually sunny here and now in Georgia. So it's sunny in Seattle, and then now it's getting cold in Georgia.
Yeah, we just had snow the other 2 days ago. So yeah, it's been nuts.
Can you update everybody on you and Lexi, you and your wife? How are you guys doing? Recovery?
Yeah, we're doing better. Lexi's doing much better. She's still sick, but she's doing much better. So, and I'm fine. I'm just a little bit of sniffles every now and then, an occasional cough, but I'm good.
All right. Well, good to hear. Again, all sorts of stuff has been happening and popping off on in the last couple days, so we are here to cover it, including the tsunami. At first, when that first happened, I was very lucky that it was not a bigger tsunami. It was definitely huge. In fact, someone put together a clip. I think it hit like 1 million views in a couple hours. That's how many How many people just got hit in the side of the head with that? As far as, nobody knew it was happening until after it was hitting California. It was really crazy. As far as the California coast and the West Coast had all of these, waves come in, and a lot of the people, especially I saw people that were interviewed, they were like, I didn't even know what happened. I didn't know until there were boats bouncing around. So pretty crazy stuff that this is, nobody keeps track of this stuff. Nobody knows about it. People are still watching Tonga or that volcano because they're worried about a second kind of event happening or possibly a bigger event happening. One thing I would keep in mind is because that happened, that can trigger other things around the world. They now know it's not debated anymore. 20 years ago, they argued, and the scientific world was not in agreement if a volcano could trigger an earthquake or if an earthquake could trigger another earthquake. Now they are all in agreement that one big earthquake or big volcano can trigger another volcano or another earthquake. I mean, it seems like it's common sense, but for the longest time it wasn't. Now they have a lot of proof and a lot of documentation behind that. Sometimes they call them antipodes. What's funny is before they even talked about that, there were people like Dutch Sense saying that was the deal, that you have an earthquake here on one side of the world and it would trigger another one on the opposite side of the planet. And you would think if it is how they say it is and there's a bunch of plates that are connected, it would be kind of like one of those puzzles that you move one piece and it taps the other. It's all going to tap, the force is going to go through all of those puzzle pieces, one of those sliding puzzles where there's an empty spot. You would think that would just be common sense, but again, it wasn't for a long time. So over the West Coast, of course, we have Cascadia Subduction Zone. Every single day, I try to make at least one mention of it. People need to know what it is. People need to know about the really big one on the West Coast. People need to pay attention and have their ducks in a row. And by ducks in a row, I mean have a basic plan, even for a 3 or 7 day plan for not to have power, not to have anything. But if that happens, we're talking about a possible year without power on the West Coast. Some experts have said that it would destroy the entire West Coast. So again, that's something that people need to look up. A lot of you might be saying, I already know everything about it. Most people don't. And I have proof of that. There are so many people I've interviewed that don't know anything. They don't know either one, the really big one. They think the biggest earthquake is in California with the San Andreas. They have no idea that we are sleeping in basically a time bomb. And then we have 1,200 U.S. flights canceled Monday as winter storm pummels the East Coast. It's, Georgia is going through this. Obviously, Dex is kind of in that area, right? And then the Maine East Coast is experiencing extreme weather. And it says U.S. airlines have canceled more than 1,200 flights Monday as a powerful winter storm packing rain, sleet, and snow slammed the East Coast on the holiday weekend and made travel difficult. It said on Sunday, roughly the 3,000 flights were canceled. Charlotte Douglas International Airport in North Carolina and American Airlines AAL hub continues to be the hardest hit. More than 400 flights were canceled there just Monday, and 85 delays were reported according to flight tracking site FlightAware. The airline preemptively canceled 1,100 flights Sunday across its main line and regional operations, canceling 90 on Saturday. It says this weekend's winter storm is expected to have a significant impact on our operation, especially at Charlotte International Airport, American said in a statement. So it's not because I'm sure some of this is for, the whole ordeal with the snow and the weather. But again, they have kind of things set up for that, especially in the East Coast. So I bet you some of that is from not having proper staff, but who knows?
The rough stuff that the folks need to be prepared for up in the Northeast and on the East Coast is if they get that mixture of ice and sleet and then it freezes and then we had wind because we've already been through this. So it hit Georgia. Now it's moving up, but they had wind advisories up to like 60 mile per hour gusts that were coming through. When you looked at the radar on this thing, it almost looked like a hurricane, the way it was spinning in a circle. So, that kind of stuff can knock out power and you can be without power for a while, especially when it's cold. That's difficult. So you guys, if you're in it, be prepared.
That's the thing. I feel most people, when there's weather happening elsewhere, say if there's a storm on the East Coast, people on the West Coast don't care whatsoever. Humans, naturally, we don't care if something is happening somewhere else in the world. It's always somewhere else that something bad is happening. I do feel for them. When we got the snow a couple weeks ago, I mean, it really shut down a lot. It's extremely dangerous. I saw that we had over 800 accidents in like the first day, 836 accidents or something like that. And people died. People lost their lives. It's not fun. And some argue that some of it may be unnatural. U.S. grocery shortages deepen as dries supplies. So one thing. So I did a video called Everything Will Stop on News, and it was the last video out. And I got a few comments saying, oh, this is fear-mongering, and people get pissed. First of all, to find my channel, you have to basically be subscribed. Even if you type in my exact name and the exact title of that video, you'll get 8 or 9 videos before you actually get that video. Try yourself. Everything Will Stop, Marfoogle News. That is the channel name with the title name, and mine will not be the first video that pops up. That's what we're kind of dealing with, and we kind of know that because they told us a few years ago that authoritative sources will be pushed for any subject that relates to something that's popular. So that's why we have to deal with a lot of issues here, though. And then people saying, oh, this is MSM regurgitated, or they say it's fear-mongering. You guys know how much I hate that word, and some of you probably hate that word because your family probably call you fear-mongers. They look at you, they look down upon you because you look at this stuff. First of all, I want to explain it in a way that I think it should make sense to a lot of people. The fact is I choose and you choose to look out this information. We want to be prepared for this kind of stuff. Most of us are not afraid. We're not trembling in our boots about this stuff. We're not fearful. It's not fear-mongering if you're not afraid. First of all, most of us here, again, have accepted, we're adults, we've accepted that everyone dies. That's the main thing. When you go back to the very root of all of this is people are afraid of something bad happening to them personally. And then they search it out and they say, you're scaring people. This shouldn't be scaring people. In fact, even if it does, when this stuff happens and they have more supplies, then that is going to be a good thing. There is no mainstream media that here especially is going to tell people and really get people fired to their feet to get ready. In other countries, this is not looked upon as fear-mongering. This is looked upon as responsible. Preparing for events, they tell them in their TV, on national TV, they say, hey, get your stuff together, get a plan. We might have a PSA once a month or something on Channel 9 that says, be prepared for a storm. But we don't have the really, really, really influential shows like, Morning Today and all these other ones, whatever the ones that everybody watches and gets their propaganda from. Those aren't the ones telling them to get ready and to have 3 months of food, 6 months of food, 12 months of food. They're also not telling the reality of the situation. And 9 out of 10 of the events that we have seen happen in the last few years have been projected by MSM. But MSM is not equal. There's a scale. There's back page MSM and then there's front page MSM. That back page MSM, the stuff that goes through and slips through everyone's cracks. Nobody sees these articles, but they're public. That's the thing. They put out information publicly almost every time. If you look at what is going on right now, 4 months before it started, we did videos telling everybody, hey, look at the world. They are not only spending a ton of money preparing for some sort of thing to spread across the planet, we specifically told you a pandemic was on its way. And it wasn't because we had a crystal ball. It was because the 3-letter agency starts with a W, ends with a ho. That agency had graphs. It said how this next one coming up was going to have it. You saw the doctor, the famous Dr. F, say in the next frickin' administration, there would be a surprise thing and it would all break out. It was like they told everybody. And guess the only people that knew that is the people that questioned every little thing that came out. It's all on MSM. MSM puts out stuff because they literally put out what's happening. We have seen previous events when you go back and you see exactly what was going to happen get projected months before, or they were doing simulations, or they were doing drills. As somebody who does this, and if I didn't have a show or anything, this is where I would be. I choose to look out other preppers, or I choose to look out into this community, because this is what I am passionate about. This is what I feel. This is like, I'm sorry, but once you kind of wake up, you don't go back to sleep. There's no going back to sleep with this stuff. When you know that there is something bigger coming, and you knew 10 years ago, when you're looking at everything that's happening now with the law changes and with the massive just stamp down on people and control and everything, we saw it coming. It's not a myth. It wasn't some Reddit thread. It's real. And people don't believe, one, conflict is coming, and people, two, don't believe that the supply chain is going to get worse. They want it to, I believe some people, and this is my opinion, some people want it to get worse. U.S. grocery shortages, and again, they say because their Target or their Costco or their Walmart is full, oh, everything's running just normal. Ask anybody that owns a business, and they will tell you it's not running normal. Dex has told you he has friends with electronics business that do car stereos, things like that. You can't get it, especially anything with chips. If you look at any grocery store, they're having huge shortages of everything from dog food to actual milk to eggs, whatever, from their local farms. And those local farms are having shortages because they can't get the certain things to produce whatever they produce. So these shortages are getting worse, and they've told us this. And now you're seeing the beginning of this. And if it doesn't, guess what happens? If people go out and prepare more, then they're going to be better off. People thanked us after it hit, and all of these main, big box retailers were out of everything. People thanked us time and time again, because 4 months before, we were telling people, get ready for this, get extra stuff. And again, we didn't have an affiliate for that back then. We just told people to get ready. That's partly why we added it, to give people, so many people emailed us, say, where do we get it? So we chose one that we believe in. So again, people want to say what they want to say, but again, you are choosing to watch this. You don't have to subscribe, and you have to go out of your way to find me. You can always skip the video or just not watch. That's the thing. It's not something that's required. I don't get why people go out of their way to tell us that we're crazy, that nothing's going to happen. How many things have happened? And it's always somewhere else. It's this mentality. It's not going to happen here. It's always going to be somewhere else. There's never going to be a conflict. When you directly ask these people, if you're face to face, so you think there's never going to be another conflict, they say, well, of course there is. But I just don't like how you say it. It's just weird. People are, this is, so people say, oh, my Costco or my Walmart and my Target's full. Everything's normal. That's because they're chartering their own boats. People don't realize that they started and chartered boats before anybody knew about these shortages. That means the big box retailers, the same ones that ran all the way through this whole thing, even when every small business was told to close, these big box retailers were kept open. They chartered boats back then. They have their own cargo ships that are not going through the main thing. And they've got permission from the government to actually go away from the port or through the port or a side port that's not being used. And they're still getting their stuff. They have their own drivers, their own stuff, and they're keeping everything. It's almost like in NK, how they have a fake store with a storefront that's totally full. But when you go in, it's just a cardboard cutout. They don't actually have groceries. Here it's somewhat like that, but it's like they have food in all the big box retailers, but all of the small grocery stores are suffering. Every ma and pa store, doesn't matter if they're selling toys, electronics, or groceries, they're all suffering right now, and it's on purpose in my belief. What do you think? Tell me in the comments below. This is serious. It's getting absolutely serious to the point where I don't have patience for people. High demand for groceries combined soaring freight costs and related labor shortages are creating a new round of backlogs for processed food and fresh produce companies, leading to an empty supermarket shelf at major retailers across the United States. Growers of perishable produce across the West Coast are paying nearly triple trucking rates to ship things like lettuce and berries before they spoil. Shay Myers, CEO of OA Produce, which grows onions, watermelons, and asparagus along the border of Idaho and Oregon, said that he has been holding off shipping onions to retail distributors until freight costs go down. Of course, because none of these companies want to pay an exorbitant amount. They don't want to pay for a $1 onion. They don't want to pay $5 to get it to their store because they can't sell it for $5. Nobody's going to buy an onion. They'll sit there and they'll rot. It says Myers said transportation disruptions in the last 3 weeks caused by a lack of truck drivers and recent highway blocking storms have led to a doubling of freight costs for fruit and vegetable producers. It says on top of already elevated prices, we typically will ship East Coast to West Coast. We used to do it for about $7,000. Check this out. Today, it's between $18,000 and $22,000. So it's almost tripled. It says Bird's Eye frozen vegetable maker Conger Band's CEO Sean Connolly told investors last week that supplies from its U.S. plants could be constrained for at least the next month due to this, whatever this is, right? To related absences. Earlier this week, Albertsons CEO Vivek Sankaran said he expects the supermarket chain to confront more supply chain challenges over the next 4 to 6 weeks as the O has put a dent in its efforts to plug supply chain gaps. And then it says shoppers on social media complained of empty pasta and meat aisles at some Walmart stores. A major store in Indianapolis was swept bare of chicken. A Publix in Palm Beach, Florida, was out of bath tissue and home hygiene products, while Costco reinstated purchase limits on toilet paper at some stores in Washington state. It's like a circle. Everything's rotating and looks like it's all starting again. It says the situation is not expected to abate for at least a few more weeks. Katie Dennis, Vice President of Communications and Research at the Consumer Brands Association, said, blaming the shortages on a scarcity of labor. Well, after that Supreme Court ruling, you would think that they would just hire back all of these people that they unjustly fired. Who knows, though? Especially the people that drive alone in a truck. That was one of the dumbest ones. There was a lot of drivers that got fired for not doing something, but they sit alone in a truck for all of their day. Kind of weird. Just saying. Andrea Allison says, well, I'm going to tell you we have rough waters ahead. Well, I think you are absolutely right. I can't tell you. 2022 is already shaping up to be a fun ride, to say the least. Dex, as far as you know all about this, I mean, you have friends that have small mom and pop shops, and all of them are being affected.
We're seeing it in our grocery stores. I mean, just the other day we couldn't get cream cheese, and the entire cream cheese section was out. And I was like, okay, it's just one store. No, went to the next store. They didn't have it either. So, there's and there were other shortages too. That was just one example. But yeah, every time we go, there's something. Either the prices have been jacked up so high you won't buy it, or they don't have it.
I mean, a gallon of whole milk, organic, is like $9 or something. My grandpa would be rolling over in his grave. I mean, just absolutely nuts. Even the regular milk is like over $5-6 a gallon. I mean, it's just nuts. And then an explosion felt around the world. This sent a sonic wave to everybody. It hit. People said that they could feel it like a blast in their face. Look at this thing. This doesn't look... What does that look like to you, by the way? I know it's a volcano, but what else does that look like?
I'll give you a little statistic, because I know what you're saying. The one that was dropped in Japan reached 60,000 feet in the air, the cloud. And that's about as high as... Actually, I think this one may have gone to 100, but initially in the first 10 minutes during that same duration, this one was 60,000 feet high. I'm sure that they have absolute proof and video from underwater video of showing the Tonga volcano, and I'm sure it's right there, and there's absolute proof. Hypothetically, could you imagine it? Because Russia has threatened us with a 300-mile high, 300-foot high wave, because they say they have nuclear weapons that can blow up in the water and send a 300-foot wave our way and just take America out.
Just imagine, just hypothetically, if something like this was tested and it looked just like this. Just a crazy thought.
I will say, if this was their test, they're about 2 zeros short because it only hit about 3 feet in height on the tsunami. But yeah, there is a lot of visual similarities to what you see from these satellite images and what the big cloud looks like.
Now, again, volcanoes are extremely explosive, but if this is just Tonga volcano, how big of an eruption was this? Could it be bigger? Is this same volcano capable of much more? Are there other underwater volcanoes that can do much worse than this? This is nuts. Look at that. If that's a real picture, that's pretty insane. Think about that. If that's a picture from space, if it's real, right? Or if it's a what do they call them? Composite image or something.
Yeah, and there's plenty of them out there too. There's a lot of the videos of the satellite images from different types of satellites that show, this massive explosion. I mean, this is a still image, but the videos that are out there from the satellite, imagery that they have it's phenomenal. It's huge. Just I've never seen anything like it.
And it says the view of the orbit from Saturday's eruption of the undersea Hunga is that the real name, Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcano. The explosive eruption of the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcano on Saturday sent tsunamis across the Pacific Basin and generated a globe-spanning seismic shock wave that could be seen from space. As of Sunday night, the full extent of the damage on the Pacific nation of Tonga, whose main island is just 40 miles south of the volcano, remains unclear since communication hasn't been reestablished with the entire country. Now, how recent is this? Do we know if there was this from yesterday or the day before? Do they have communication?
It was from Saturday's eruption, but there have been some other smaller eruptions underneath the water they've claimed, but nothing near as big as the original.
I mean, just imagine that a whole island, a whole people were basically unreachable. They don't know how, they didn't know how it affected them. So, but just imagine if this was so much bigger, and if it was close to some of the metropolises on the West Coast. Pretty nuts. Lori Woods, thank you for pledging on Patreon. I appreciate that. Cindy Denton, thank you for pledging on Patreon. It gave me a little notice here, so thank you. I appreciate that. And then thank you over on D-Live, Zippy Moons, Lisa K, and then Kelly2334 just dropped in with a Ninjet to start the show. Kelly2334, everybody get it. Let's get a Kelly in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. Again, that's not your first Ninjet, so that's incredibly awesome, and thank you so much. Again, the Ninjet is the highest compliment you can bestow on somebody on D-Live, so thank you, and thank you. Divine1122, thank you. Lisa K23, Cloud Farrell says, love the fam. Cloud Farrell says, be prepared, and Marf out. And then Raging Boomer, Lady Green Eyes, snowed in 54 centimeters. We are snowed in. Love to you, Adam and all. Where are you, Lady Green Eyes? And then Cloud Farrell, is there a site for local places, ma and pa stores? That's a good question, actually. But I would say support any of them rather than any of these big box retailers. But of course, everybody, including myself, some things you have to get there because nowhere else is open or they can't get their hands on what you need. And that's because the big box retailers buy everything. I use AzureStandard.com, says Cloud Farrell. I have no idea what that is. Jammer1, Penny Lane, Jordan B. Bear, and the Recalcitrant. Thank you for supporting over there on D-Live. Thanks to the whole D-Live, D-Love crew. And then there was, I can already see Jacob Israel doing a video on this. It says, rare calf born with 3 eyes and 4 nostrils as people queue up to worship a cow. A 3-eyed cow born in India has been dubbed a divine miracle when it was claimed to be the reincarnation of Hindu god Shiva. which of course has its own kind of mystique around it. It says some residents of the village Chateau-Richgar in the Rajanadegaon district, and I'm sorry if you're from there and I just brutally messed that up, district in India, claim that the three-eyed calf is a reincarnation of Viswanatha, a god known for having an eye on the forehead. Oh, that is creepy. It says a large number of people flocked from nearby villages to worship the cow, believing to be the rebirth of Shiva, Sputnik reported. Well, the birth of the animal, which was born with 3 eyes and 4 nostrils, was linked to the Hindu god. A veterinary doctor has disagreed with the comparison. This is it. And look at where the eye is. Dex, that is just absolutely... That's scary looking. And it's not like it's 2 eyes here and 1 eye here. Look at the placement of that eye.
Right in the center.
That is freaky. And 4 nostrils. This is something out of the Bible. I mean, just crazy. And it says that the calf, born on January 14th, attracted large crowds of people who offered incense sticks, coconuts, and money per the custom of local culture. Some say the timing of the calf's birth, which was born just as the Hindu festival of harvesting, Makar Sankranti, started, is no coincidence. The bovine's birth lent itself to locals who believe the arrival of the calf could be a religious significance. Speaking to Indian news agency ANI, villager Neil Kumar said, "I have never seen a 3-eyed being. Only Lord Shiva had it. It is a divine miracle, an incarnation of the Lord himself." So that is pretty trippy. The showing that, of course, they were giving coconuts and money and whatever they had, kind of as an offering to this supposed reincarnation of a god. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comments below.
Last year there was a calf born with a 7 on its head, and I don't know the whole story to it, so you guys can go Google it or DuckDuckGo it, but there was something along the lines of that also got a bunch of people, all hyped up around what the meaning was, and did it have some sort of symbolism because of the calf having a 7 on its forehead and it being a certain time and a certain number. So this is really interesting, though. Well, there was also I've never seen a 3-eyed calf before.
There was also the red calf, or was it the red calf? Can chat?
Yeah, there was the red one and there was the 7. There was 2 of them last year that I think happened.
Or maybe, I thought it was 20, it might be a 2019, 2020, and now 2022. Maybe they skipped a year. Either way, odd cows and calves being born, which have religious significance in different religions. So pretty freaky. What do you think? Tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, commenting and sharing the show is the only way that this gets really out. So thank you, everybody. Yeah, and thank you for over 4,000 showing up. D-Live has a great crew over there. Thank you, everybody. Durango, X New Brew, Cloud Pharrell, Tasangi. Thank you, guys. Everybody that showed up. All right, and then another reminder. So we actually have some really cool stuff coming up, but again, remember to check out EMP Shield. If you do want to protect yourself, going to our affiliates like this can actually help not only our show, but it can help yourself. You end up getting a $50 off device discount when you go through marfooglenews.com. And that is, again, if you get 2 devices, that means $100 off. 3 devices, $150. That's per device. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP, and you can not only get a discount, but you can also help your favorite show at the same time. This device can protect against all 3 phases of an EMP, so you can actually get prepared for an event like this. Even though friends and family say you're crazy for thinking this, this is one of the most likely scenarios to play out. Over zombies and all of this other crazy stuff, this is a reality that the government and the military is preparing for. If they're going to prepare their own buildings, why are we not? Again, this also protects against the natural kind, which we will have. It will be guaranteed that we will have another Carrington-level event. It is just a matter of time. They say it happens on average every 150 years. It's been 160. So we're overdue by some standards. MarfoogleNews.com/EMP. Go check it out. Again, that is much appreciated. All right, and then, Dex, if you want to talk about the next piece here, it's the Malik Fasai's Akram's family.
Yeah, so, I'm sure by now everyone's heard about the event that happened in Texas. It was a big deal in the media as far as a synagogue and what had happened. And this person was not from our country. But what's happening now is the family of the person who committed or allegedly committed the crime is upset, trying to ask why was he even allowed in? Like, because he wasn't from our country, he shouldn't have been given a visa. And how did he get in and get, what he needed to do, this T job that he did in Texas. So if you're not aware of the story, you can read more about the whole story. I can't imagine you're not aware of it unless you just only get your news right here and nowhere else, but because this was covered everywhere. But it was a big event that happened. Person came into a synagogue, took it over, held a bunch of people. They eventually were able to get everyone out without anybody being hurt except for the person that committed the crime. But that's, there are some really good questions here about, like, how did he get here? What, how did he sneak in? Did he come in? Apparently he was given a visa. Why was he given one? There was a lot of history behind him, et cetera. So I think a lot of people are going to want to dig in on this.
Yeah, this is definitely going to create at least a few Reddit threads, because there's a lot of very odd things here, and people are not going to let this sleep. So I wanted to know until I had, as every single day goes by, they keep releasing more little nuggets. And it's kind of like with LV, with Vegas. It's like you don't really get a lot until a couple weeks in. And I think that this one is going to be one of those where people are going to scratch their heads all the way through. This is extremely odd. This is also floating around the same time that they're having all of these different laws and different divisions being made, and all sorts of things are going on at the same time. There may be a narrative or two that are being birthed like a three-eyed cow. And then Manhattan's DA's controversial crime policy concerns restaurants. It says that restaurant owners are speaking out about Manhattan District's Attorney Alvin Bragg's controversial new policies that keep a certain low-level offender out of jail, saying the uptick in crime is already creating fear among their workers. Restaurant owners that Bragg's new plan could make these things even worse. It says the past couple of years has been an uphill battle, to say the least, for Manhattan restaurant owner Stathis Antokonopoulos. Shortly after opening the Carnegie Diner and Cafe in 2019, business was brought to a screeching halt due to the CV, and then there was a sudden uptick in crime. It says, we had our windows broken down. We had a robbery where they broke in and took out money from the register, he explains. And then it says, one of our employees, someone stole their cell phone when they weren't looking. It's like that out of everything, right? It says, to deal with crimes like this, newly elected District Attorney Alvin Bragg is implementing a different strategy. Now, remember, some of these phones are $1,000, $1,500. You would think some of these would be a felony, but people still do it. Again, this is what they're talking about. It's not being dealt with as a crime. It says to deal with crimes like this, newly elected District Attorney Alvin Bragg is implementing a different strategy. Last week, Bragg issued a memo to his staff directing them not to prosecute low-level crimes and to divert first-time offenders to treatment. To not prosecute low-level crimes. So I guess we'll just let him go. Right? Maybe let's just not call him crimes. Let's just say, oh, he's being a dick. His policy has been criticized by police unions, lawmakers, and now by many small business owners. Imagine having a cop across the street and someone steals your purse and you go, hey, get that guy. And they don't. They're like, well, we'll grab him, but we can't really do anything. That guy took my phone. It's on video. We have the video. He's right here. He's still standing there. We can't prosecute. Bragg has publicly announced that he will continue to prosecute armed robbery and assaults as felonies. Oh, that's good. Dex, I mean, like if you actually take like a weapon to somebody, then yeah.
Well, yeah, and they've got people are complaining, like one of the quotes here, but I've heard this from others, many others, is they don't even want to ride the subway. So if you've got a night shift, like you're a waiter and you make your primetime money in the night shift, right, and you get done 11 o'clock after everything's done, 12 o'clock, and you got to ride the subway because you don't drive in New York, and they're refusing. They're just like, it's not safe. Nothing is safe anymore. So they're not wanting to work, and we're even seeing restaurants hiring security guards. And when have you ever seen a security guard at a restaurant? But now they're bringing in their own security guards into the restaurants.
Well, I mean, as robots replace the workforce, at least, we'll have a couple jobs like security guards at Olive Garden because, it's a family restaurant. Your family here until you get robbed and killed. Sweden puzzled by drones spotted over 2 nuclear power plants. Now, this is something we've talked about for years now because obviously a lot of people were talking about nuclear plants and UFOs flying over them. These they seem to have identified as actual drones. This is not good. Remember, just in the last couple months, they told us that there's a huge threat from drones. They publicly told us that one of the first attacks on a power plant happened with a drone, or at least the first one that was publicized. Dex, do you remember that? They had a drone with some sort of device, or they were trying to take down a power station with a drone.
Yeah, and I think that was that in Venezuela, or was that here?
No, that was here.
Yeah.
That was in the U.S.
And there's been an uptick. There's also been an uptick in these drones being used both by cartel and by T groups over in the ME, where they're doing things, far more advanced with these very inexpensive drones, right?
Well, and imagine if you had if there's no defenses set up at one of these nuclear plants, you have a small. By the way, some of these drones can lift a human. By the way, it depends on how big. That would have to be a bigger one. But even the smaller ones can lift a whole gallon of milk. Think about a whole gallon of milk, about how heavy that is. Now think about what kind of explosive you could pack into that weight. Now you think of an undefended nuclear plant and a weak spot in the concrete wall. A big boom goes off. They fly it right into a certain part where they know it's weak. Then you have another Chernobyl. That's going a little bit far, but this is what they would do if they're going to attack it. And now we are seeing they're actually trying to attack these plants. This time doesn't look like it was an actual attack. But again, remember we showed you the actual documents. Dex, do you remember what it was, the abbreviation? It was the DOE, or Department of Energy.
Yeah, it was an annual report on the threats that had happened. Everything from, drones to, people shooting bangs at wires to any type of threat, and including cyber against the grid, or the different grids and the different sections of power.
I'm trying to remember. It was, so basically there was another 4-letter abbreviation for the actual report that went to the Department of Energy. And here's the crazy part. They took from like 2012 to some year. It was about 9 years. Over 9 years, they had 700 events, and that included everything he just said. Somebody driving through the fence and into the thing, somebody throwing a rock at it, somebody taking a BB gun, somebody taking whatever. Made homemade boom booms, drones, everything. Out of 700 events that have happened to our grid, at that point, the second one was being publicized. So only 2 went public out of all 700 of those. And there were serious ones. So anything that goes to anything that happens to the grid is almost virtually unpublicized. So if there is something publicized, I always ask questions about why they're telling us this, or if this was more serious than they say it was and they could not hide it. The cyber attack, the second one, and when that report came out, that was one that they could not hide. It got out, and it got out big time. So our grid is at threat right now, and people are not, they're totally asleep to this, or they want to deny that it's. Look at our grid. Look at outside your house. You've got old school systems. I mean, even if it's underground, think about that. That's even worse. You cut off one choke point and that whole thing's done. They figured out that you can cut off 9 locations in the U.S., and this is here, and it's the same everywhere around the world, I guarantee it, and it's probably worse in other places. There were 9 places where they could hit strategically. If they knew the 9 locations of these choke points, they could knock out our entire grid. So that's without an EMP. That's without an EMP, without a CME happening. That is with actually physically taking out 9 locations. Would undo our entire grid for up to 18 months, over a year and a half to 2 years. Because the things that they would be taking out, these big, I'm at loss for the word for these huge boxes, but they're made overseas. We don't even make them here.
The Transformers.
Yes, the Transformers. And I should know as a Transformer fan. But 9 of those takes out the whole thing. So this is a big deal that over 2 nuclear power plants, they're having these drones. And I guarantee you there's more than this. Late Friday, police were alerted about the drones, but lost track of the unmanned aircraft. Swedish media said that the drones were large enough to withstand the wind that was blowing over the area. Now, I don't know if that means these were professional drones or the 6-bladed professional commercial drones, or if this was a Mavic Pro. Who knows? I know my drone, which is the Mavic Pro 2, can handle really, really strong wind. Obviously, when that happens, usually people take them down, but I've had it handle it a couple feet off the ground, and I couldn't believe what it could handle. So I don't know what this is, but again, that doesn't take away from how serious it could be. And then we have China's birth rate drops to record low in 2021. I want to hear your opinion on this, Dex, because I have an opinion that that any birth rate drop should be kind of obvious with all of the lockdowns and not communicating with people. But this is kind of specific, right?
Well, yeah, it's a big drop, but it's also been a continuing drop. And I think, you can see, even if you go back to the old one-child policy, right? They have been on sort of a mission to intentionally, manage their population and not let it be naturally selected, but instead be, controlled by their rule, right? And what they want to have happen. And then we've also heard recently that they want to increase it now because obviously it's in the decline and it's been on the decline. So it's really interesting to, as we think about this, we've heard, Elon come out and say the world itself is in a decline and we need to be making more babies. In his opinion, one of the only billionaires that would actually say that, because the rest of them will say the exact opposite, right? But put that in perspective, and obviously this is one of the largest countries, largest population. So with it being in decline, would have a significant numbers behind it.
Now, a weird fact is that sperm rates are going down worldwide. That is something that should alarm people, but I haven't heard no one in real life just bring this kind of thing up. It's kind of a weird thing to talk about, like, hey, Bob, hey, Steve, how's that sperm going? It's low. It's not like, how's the weather? But there are certain things that should be talked about, Bob. Well, Steve, I'll let you know how it goes. It's on the up and up. And before we talk about the USS Carl Vinson Essex amphibious ready group drill in the South China Sea, I do want to remind you, if you do want to get your ducks in a row, this is one of the best places to do it. Again, you can get almost anything essentials of life from My Patriot Supply at marfooglenews.com/prep. They have everything from bucket, short and long-term survival food, MREs, water filtration, air purification, survival gear. This is, again, somewhere where you can basically get any kind of survival gadget and gear that you would need. Again, some of you are in survival for the gadgets. They also have all of that as well. You can even get iodine pills in the case of a nuclear event. You can get pretty much everything from these guys. When you do, not only will you get a discount on right now for the 1 month supply, there is a discount, and on the 3 month supply, there is a discount. So make sure to go over and check it out. marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/PREP. So this is pretty big. Carrier USS Carl Vinson Essex amphibious ready group drill in the South China Sea. The Carl Vinson Carrier Group, Strike Group, and Essex Amphibious Ready Group with the embarked 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit are now drilling in the South China Sea. So remember, any drill can turn into the real thing at any point. People should follow these things. I'm not saying that that's what's happening, and I hope that is not what is happening. But if you look, you have multiple drills going on by other countries. So when does a drill stop being a drill? And actually, because a lot of the time, Dex, don't we know from history that they have gotten big groups of military members in a place by calling it a drill, and then they turn it from a drill to a real event?
Well, yeah, Putin just showed us how to put his entire military on the border of a country he wants to take over. So all under the guise of a drill, right? Oh, it's just a drill. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. And then boom, next thing you know, they're doing an invasion. So yeah, that is an obvious tactic if you needed to move large numbers to say you're performing drills.
It says images released by the U.S. Navy show the carrier USS Carl Vinson, landing helicopter dock USS Essex, and the amphibious dock landing ship USS Pearl Harbor, a cruise USS Lake Champlain, destroyer USS Michael Murphy, Alan Shepard ship, the dry cargo ship, and replenishment ship USNS John Erickson sailing in the South China Sea. That whole group, that is an entire, that's everything you need right there. That's not only the big and bang and boom, but that's also the resupplies, the fuel, the hospital ship. Everything is there to start a conflict. It says the Essex ARG was initially comprised of Essex, Pearl Harbor, and amphibious transport dock USS Portland, but it appears Portland has since detached from the group following the ARG's departure from the Middle E in the early January. Destroyers USS O'Kane and Michael Murphy then joined the ARG in the Indian Ocean, both destroyers part of the Carl Vinson CSG in August, but are operating with the Essex ARG. Essex carried out an exercise with Indian Navy corvette INS Cora and Indian Navy P-881 earlier this week in the eastern Indian Ocean before transiting the Malacca Straits on January 11th towards the South China Sea. So they're moving. Now we have movement. We actually have units in not only by Ukraine and by Russia, but we now have units over in the South China Sea, and a lot of them, an actual wartime group of ships. Remember, the actual kind of prediction from almost the entire world's intel is that Russia will take Ukraine sometime in late January, early February. So we actually have kind of a timeline to look for, and if it doesn't happen, that's great. But it looks like they have, of course, upwards of 275,000 troops, and again, half of them are about 200 miles away or in, and there's been no update that says that it is officially ended. They have upwards of 100,000 right there on the border with tanks, mobile hospitals, everything set up. All of their vehicles are there, all their artillery. And there was a piece just 2 days ago that essentially said that they were moving more or could be moving more. Why this has to do with South China Sea is because I believe that they would do it at the same time to break up our Navy. If our Navy has to be in two places, you separate it and you break it down. China has the largest Navy in the world now. And it has now been pumping out carriers like crazy. I believe they finished their third one, but either way, we're talking about big movements in a short amount of time. They have also turned their regular cargo ships and fishing ships and every kind of ship into a military capable ship. So on top of their normal Navy, they also have this shadow Navy that now they've done documentaries on. They have thousands of fake fishing boats that are actually militia. So expect those to play a part in the next conflict.
I mean, even talking about splitting between, say, Ukraine and the ME and Taiwan, right? Well, just take China and Taiwan, putting our ships in Spratly Islands and Taiwan. That's a significant distance between the two. It's not like, we're just gonna, 30-minute boat ride, So that creating a conflict in that area could really make it hard for us to deal with both Taiwan and, the South China Sea, depending on what location it is.
I mean, it's simple strategy. Break up our Navy and break up where we are. NK test launch. Well, think about this. Okay, so if you just took Ukraine once, you would have the full force of the U.S. and all of its allies right there. If you are close allies where they're, quote, best friends and they've been doing all of their drills together, China and Russia, why would you not do it at the same time? You would have, if China takes it 2 years later or a year later and Ukraine's taken now, and why would they do it in another time? Have the full force of the world on your military. Together, if they do it at the same time, it is much harder. It's like trying to you throw two balls and you're trying to catch both of them. If they're 15 feet apart, you're only going to catch one of them. You might not catch either because you're focused on running between the two. NK test launched 2 suspected ballistic missiles Monday in its 4th rocket volley this year, turning up regional tensions with its biggest strings of tests since August of 2019. It's almost like, it's like a replay of what happened during T-Man's era, right? Only this is not as talked about as the other ones, right? Remember during T-Man's administration, this was huge in the news. Now they're not really putting it on front page. Why would they do that? Because now it's President B or what?
Well, it was also during the beginning of T-Man's, because before he was in, they were doing a lot of those too, right? There was always stuff going on. And then he did a whole meeting at the border and went across and, did all that. And, I guess some would say he had decent diplomatic relations with that country and things settled down. And then as soon as he's gone, everything started firing back up again.
So I would also, and you're absolutely right. I would also, can you actually cover the FedEx? And this is really crazy, by the way. This is kind of like China equipping their ferries with loads. I need to grab something real quick. Dex, can you cover the FedEx?
No worries. So get this. FedEx wants to equip its Airbus A321s with anti-missile laser countermeasures. So a commercial airliner with countermeasures. So infrared countermeasures have never caught on in the commercial aircraft space, but FedEx and the FAA are clearly still interested in the capability. The FAA has filed a proposal with the U.S. Department of Transportation that seeks a special condition that would allow FedEx aircraft to carry infrared countermeasures to defend against heat-seeking missiles. While this isn't the first time that the infrared countermeasures have been proposed for commercial aircraft or even FedEx aircraft, the filing suggests the need for missile defense, even in the commercial airline sector, still remains. So why is it that we need this for our airlines, commercial airlines? The FAA proposal states that in recent years, in several incidents abroad, civilian aircrafts were fired upon by portable air defense systems or manpads. To counter this threat, the FAA seeks special conditions for FedEx to install a system that emits infrared laser energy outside the aircraft as a countermeasure against these heat-seeking missiles. So it's kind of a weird world we're living in, that we're now having to put defense systems on our commercial aircraft.
No, I'm sorry, but this seems to me like what they are doing with their commercial. I think that these are going to be a part of the next war. And that's just my opinion here. It sounds like, or our infrastructure to keep it going when certain things happen, right? This is pretty crazy. Just listen to that. Anti-missile laser countermeasures. Why would you need that on a FedEx? What else can these deliver? Remember, they're using these giant planes to deliver missiles, because we're going to need every cargo. They figured out that they could actually use cargo planes with specialized missiles where they can just drop them, and then the missiles do all of the smart stuff by themselves. So you don't have to have a fighter jet to launch one of these missiles. All you need is something that can get it up into the air, and then they drop it out the back. It sounds to me like they could use some of these for something else. What do you guys think, though? This might be the kind of plane that, What do you think that they are doing this for? Why would they need is it so they can keep moving things around in a conflict time era? I mean, they're also, do you also know, if you follow the show, you would know they're putting these papers in to put, what is it? Ground to air SAM missiles and air defenses around infrastructure in the United States. Not on the coast. We're talking about everywhere across the United States. Any really, really hardcore infrastructure would have anti-air. Why would you need that? Unless you're being invaded or you have plans to get invaded. Seems to me like there's a lot of things that are right out in the open that are really clear. I mean, Dex, like you were saying, though, but like what? So are they really saying that it's because people are shooting missiles at these things, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what the story is that they're shooting missiles at them, and they've got plenty of videos in here that have shown that happen in the past, including a DHL aircraft that you could see a photograph of its wing sort of, almost completely demolished. I guess it looks like it was enough for it to get on the ground, but it was obviously hit by a missile back in 2003. So, but the thing that strikes me is that if we're needing to do this to our commercial aircraft here, is this here or is this only in certain locations? If it's here, then we're moving into a time where they're expecting to see, these types of missile launches from, T groups or bad actors, whatever you want to call them, where we've never seen it done before, right? And that's kind of a scary thought to think that they're planning ahead because they know that's going to happen, right?
Yeah, this is freaky. It's not just one thing, it's this whole group of things. We should almost do a video putting together all of these defensive things that they're doing in the United States. Now they say, if they say, well, there's several incidents that have happened abroad, think about how much money a system like this would cost. And would FedEx cover it, or would the U.S. government cover it? If the U.S. government is going to cover this, FedEx is, again, this isn't USPS, this is FedEx, right? Why would they cover it? Why wouldn't the company cover it? Or is the company covering it? I have some questions about, like, who would pay for something like this? I don't know if I was away for a second, but it does say, it says, let's see here. I wanted to show you how it
through most of the article.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Did you read that it emits the laser energy outside the aircraft?
Yeah.
Basically, it puts a heat signal out there, so it would go towards that. Think about that on a FedEx plane. And then Russia and Belarus plan joint military drills. Like I said, there are many drills happening all over the place. It says Belarus planned joint military drills in February. How fast can that drill turn into the real thing? This looks like everyone is preparing for something here. Moscow, January 17th, Russia and Belarus will hold joint military drills in February. Belarusian leader Alexander Lukashenko said on Monday, amid soaring tensions between the East and the West over Ukraine. Russia, close ally of Belarus, has worried that the rest in Kiev with the troop buildup near Ukraine's border and a barrage of threatening rhetoric stirring fears that it's planning to invade. Moscow, of course, for weeks now has denied any such plan, but has used standoff to campaign for security guarantees from the West including a halt to NATO expansion and a formal veto on Ukraine, a former Soviet Union republic ever joining the military alliance. They're trying to say veto this whole, Ukraine joining NATO, and we'll be good, right? And a guarantee that you won't put anything in Ukraine.
And just a reminder for those who don't know the geography over there, Belarus sits right on the northern border of Ukraine. So it basically is a border country. All the north of Ukraine is all the south of Belarus for the most part.
So it is right there. And then we have Walmart creates its own cryptocurrency, NFTs, and enters the metaverse with sales of virtual goods. So a lot of people do not realize what this is, especially anybody that is not kind of familiar with this. Dex, I'll go to you because you're a crypto expert here in a second. But my opinion on this is that that they have put all their kind of tokens in one bucket, right? All of these big companies are seeing this. So I hope that all of us kind of see this as well. This is where they are going. I don't see some I have heard say, oh, metaverse won't work out. It will be a failure. It'll be like one of these apps that comes out and goes. This is not. This is a way of life. This is a way of life when you're stuck in your home. Like if you have something long term like the CV, keep going or get worse or start over, and you are stuck, and they will make billions of dollars from you being at home, stuck in your home on this virtual world. Now, a lot of people here in my audience, I guarantee, have not actually tried. I'm sure it's a very low percent of the people that have tried real virtual reality right now, but it's much better. And I am sure there is so much room for improvement. It's absolutely nuts. But the quality it is now, you can get lost in virtual reality. With an Oculus or a Hive or any of these new sets, if you go in it, you could lose track of time. You could be in this place. Now it tracks. They have things to basically track your whole body. They even have sets that they're working on getting down to the price where you could have it in your home, where you could run, you could sit, you could drive, you could do everything, and it will feel like you're actually running in a world. These things are all coming. So that's why, I mean, honestly, I'm sure investors are even grabbing Facebook at whatever astronomical price it's at, or Meta, because this is going to go somewhere. And big companies like Walmart jumping in, this is a huge thing. Dex, what do you think about this as far as, and by the way, buying virtual goods is like buying a poster for your virtual house that people can come in online. They'll be able to visit your house, and people would literally pay $100 for a virtual JPEG of something signed on the wall or something. This is the kind of stuff that people do in these app games, but this will be in the metaverse.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a two points that are coming across here in my mind. Now, for starters, all of this is based on patent information, trademark information. So none of this is actually released by Walmart. People are just snooping around at what they've been doing. But you can easily put two and two together and understand where they're going with it. But, this definitely, a player like Walmart going all in or going in a big way for the metaverse is going to, obviously bring more validity to the metaverse, right? I also think that they're probably using the metaverse as an option for it to dabble in the digital currency market. Like they don't necessarily want to just roll out digital currency and accept it in all their stores. This would be a good way for them to get started with it before, they move to doing digital currency in their stores, right? Because they could do it on a smaller scale and do it in a digital world with things that people are used to buying with digital coins, right?
Well, did they also see a world where we're going to be in our homes purchasing from them? Are they setting up because we won't be able to go into their store anymore? Are we going to be buying virtual items from the metaverse? Are we going to be stuck in the Matrix? Are we going to be hooked up to Neuralink? You have to understand, they might actually get heads up years in advance on some of this stuff. By 2030, we're supposed to be in a different world.
Well, I mean, let's think about it. The World Wide Web came out and, we were looking at information. It was interesting. You could get your hands on information from all around the world. You had, libraries at your fingertips, right? And as it evolved, things like e-commerce evolved. And you went from, okay, well, I'm just starting with this thing called the web to now I can go into Amazon and buy a book. Well, now I can go to Amazon and buy anything, or I can go to Walmart and buy anything and have it delivered the same day or the next day for very little, right? So, when you think about, them pushing the metaverse, it is absolutely 100% going to be an opportunity for them to create an experience for how you would shop for physical goods in a virtual reality world, right? My mind would be blown if they just said, no, we're not doing that. That's absolutely something they're going to do.
Here's how I see it at first is you will be able to go, this is a trip. So imagine in virtual reality, you walk through a virtual Walmart, but it has all of the real items on the shelf. So you are sitting at home, you say, I want to go to Walmart, but I don't want to risk getting the CV. I don't want to get, sick, but I actually physically want to go and see what they have. They would be able to live update what these stores would have, or just have everything have a full shelf. You walk into the virtual sliding doors. You're in a Walmart. It doesn't stink as bad. It's much cleaner. It's virtual. Maybe they might add some smudges on the ground or blood stains or chalk outlines or something to make it more realistic. But you keep walking and you go to the aisle where your stuff is at, and it shows a virtual representation. In fact, the graphics are so good, it feels like you're there. You pick those items. You say, I want to buy. You double click on your controller, and then all of a sudden that's shipped in less than 24 hours, or in the future in a couple hours, or it comes home just as fast as it would take you driving 35 minutes back from Walmart or whatever it may be. So that's something I can already see is going to happen, especially looking at the patents. They would be able to you would be able to go virtually shop and then have it shipped to your house. And you wouldn't know the difference because you're actually going physical. Some people like myself, I like going into the store. I don't like shopping online. I do more of it now than I used to, but I don't like it. I always liked going to the physical store. I still to this day have never bought clothes online. I think ever. I mean, I've bought my kids some gloves and stuff, but really I just don't do it. I think you should be able to try on your clothes. People, I almost think that they'll do this where you could try on a sweater and it will be the real size, and then they will take your measurements. You'll have your real body in this thing. You'll try it on and be able to look into a virtual mirror and say, oh, that looks good. And it will actually fit like what it says. I mean, this is nuts. Not to mention Walmart has teamed up with the military and FEMA. Think about where this could go in a dystopian future.
Yeah, and Adam, the other thing to think about, and there's a lot of great minds behind this. And when I say great, I'm not necessarily saying I'm all for this metaverse, but the people that are behind this have pretty amazing brain power when it comes to what they're building and what they're conceptualizing. And a lot of the paradigm shifts have happened, whether it's been on the internet or it's been in the way we, shop, say Amazon or other things, that when the metaverse comes around, we may not even be walking down a virtual aisle. The way you shop for items may be completely different. Like it may be, something that we've never even thought of yet that they're going to bring to us. And that's kind of, it's kind of scary, because a lot of times when that is programmed, it's not necessarily programmed in your favor. It's usually programmed in the favor of the marketers or the retailers. But it's also interesting to think that if there's ways to accomplish what we want to accomplish in a faster, more productive way, so we have more time to spend with our kids or more time to do other things than, waiting in long lines, driving to a store, driving back, sitting in traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So there's pros and cons all over the map with this stuff.
What do you think about this? I would love to hear from everyone here. Again, this is something that I think is going to happen a lot faster than people think. It's going to be extremely scary. Nick Ross says, I've already started living in isolation and can live off the land. Let's see here. They sold our kids with Fortnite, Roblox, and Minecraft. Only the roll your sleevers will be plugged in. Yeah. Imagine that, where you couldn't even log in if you didn't have something. SP, thank you so much. Alex Hawkins, thank you so much. Let's see here. There was a few people that I missed. I appreciate your support over here. Redpilled, thank you for the massive support. Says, I may have missed it, but do you think the NG deployment is related to CV coming soon? So I believe you're talking about the guerrilla exercise, the Dex, am I wrong?
No, National Guard deployment to all the hospitals is what I'm assuming. When he says that.
Yes. Related to CV coming soon. There's no predicting that, and I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, we are preparing as if that is the truth. So if that gives you something there, I mean, the thing is, I think at any point things are going to flip, and especially the state I'm in. I'm in Washington with very, very proactive group of people. Bless their hearts. Kimberly Banks, thank you. SP, thank you so much. Alex Hawkins says, if your world isn't focused through the lens of God's truth, you're subject yourself to the ideologies of culture around you. Trust God's word. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate your support and love your comment. Open House, Texas, Adam and Dex, it was because of your channel and others that we were able to ride out the lockdowns and ice storm comfortably. Thank you for being a blessing. Well, thank you. I hope you weren't scared to do all that, but obviously we told you 4 months before all this happened. We even suggested people stock up on the paper masks. We knew this was happening. For my favorite independent news. Appreciate all the work you and Dex do. However, and whoever else helps, the mods for sure. Make sure to put an M in the chat for the mods. Mystery School. Thank you so much for the $6.93. Don't know if that has any significance. Sean Michelle Hamilton says, Adam, I'm an operator for a major moving company. I'll move you anywhere in the country, full service, no charge. Husband and wife team that listens to you all the time. Sean Michelle Hamilton. That's a crazy offer, but I might take you up on that. The thing is if we would move from Seattle to Florida all the way across, and that's pretty big. That stuff costs a lot of money to do. So, but thank you so much for your massive support, and you guys, that's a pretty huge offer. But I wouldn't take you up on it. Thank you guys, I appreciate that. If you have a company, then put it out there, because remember, we want people to support Ma and Pa, or just in general the smaller companies, rather than supporting these huge companies. So feel free to put that in the chat, and if mods, please let them. That's pretty cool. Any of the people in the Foogle fam, I hope you guys use companies like theirs instead of the big companies. Well, I'm going to tell you, we're going to have Rough Orders Ed, Andrea Ellison, Mystery School. Much love, Adam, Dex, and Foogle fam. Stay safe. Y'all be good to each other, of course. And then James Fox, thank you. Everybody that has supported tonight, thank you. And then Dex, we were going to decide in the next week. We were just basically going to do some sort of drawing on Marfoogle News. If you haven't gone over there, make sure to do so. You could win a free off-grid bag. You can also, again, even if make sure to go over to the other channel again, and I will be putting a video out in the next couple days of how anybody can basically enter if you're not subscribed. But make sure to go subscribe. That's one of the easiest ways to do it, because I'm going to be picking through those, or the way that I'll be telling you on that other video. You can win an off-grid bag. These are made by a company that actually specialized in making these for FBI and other agencies, essentially to protect any electronics that go in there. They can't be tracked, they can't be hacked, and they cannot be affected by things like an EMP or a CME. These are essentially Faraday bags for your electronics. Now, the backpack is so badass because it is literally, it's basically everything in one. It has the cell phone holder, the laptop holder, the tablet holder, the key fob holder. It's all built into one extremely professionally incredible quality bag. You could win one of these or the Faraday bag. They also have a bag that essentially can fit everything and anything in it. That is this one. Let's see here. Boom. This one is pretty amazing. It's just one big Faraday bag that can protect everything you have. If you don't want to enter to win one, again, you can just go buy one at a discount from marfooglenewscom/offgrid. That way you are getting a discount and you are helping your favorite channel. So thank you, everybody that supports us and our mission here. Thank the mods for doing an amazing job on all of what, again, keeping this a peaceful place. Now, Dex, there is also some pretty pretty rough stuff down in web only. So let's go over that.
Hey. Yeah. So head over to morfoogle.news.com, click on the thumbnail for today's show, and scroll down to web only content. There you will find lots of things, including a crazy statement I couldn't believe that came out of our administration. Another video there I think is of actors that may be an old one that was recycled, but it came back up. It was pretty funny. Guys having a smoke break while he's acting. But look, there's some interesting things they're being thrown at Rogan. If you follow the Jake Paul stuff, I know he's a big YouTuber. Apparently Tyson's agreeing to go to the ring with him. That might be interesting. More stuff going on with other politics, including the Hillary who they keep saying may be running. So go check it out. Lots of stuff that we just can't cover on the show. Either don't have enough time or too far to one side or the other, so we can't be really objective on it, or maybe it's just too hot for TV and we can't even cover it. So head over there, marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail, scroll down to web only content, or if you're on YouTube, just open the description. It's the first link called show notes.
By the way, could you imagine the crazy chaos that we would go through if we had in 2024 another vote day where it was Hillary versus T-Man? And what if Hillary won this time? Do you think anyone would ever, the world would go nuts. I think we would lose our world. I think our world would just crack in half and float away. I think that people would just go nuts, especially after, it took a year just to get over the last one. It's crazy.
Yeah, we got to get through this year's event just to see how crazy that's going to be. I'm sure the heat's about to be turned up on a lot of different things that probably will affect all of us.
It's definitely going to be turned up. They're trying to make it so they're going to try to make it so he can't even run again because of what happened on the 6th. So I hope everybody is watching the actual congressional hearings and with like Ted Cruz and one of the other senators. They're actually questioning the DOJ about certain things. Make sure to go check that out. What episode is that on? Do we have that on our web only? Oh man, they got FBI agents in that event telling people, "Hey, let's get in there. Let's go."
Yeah, that's probably a couple of shows back. Yeah, I remember that.
Just absolutely crazy. Bilbo Evans says, "Hey y'all, has anyone heard China has a boom boom which shows it can create an artificial sun?" Has a boom boom. Well, they have an artificial sun, but that's an actual like plant. The thing that was launched a couple days ago, there was a video on it. That's actually a rocket. But anyways, crazy stuff. Thank you everybody for supporting over on DLive. Thank you, the DLive crew. We had some amazing people in there. Zippy Moons, thank you for your support. Thank you, Bear Claws, Dixie Doe, Hopkinson. Thank you, Gem. Thank you, Chance Paladin. Thank you, everybody that has popped in tonight over on DLive, including some really awesome people. We've got Miss Me V2, Live to Give, Bear Claws 1B, Tree Hookers, Charlie. Thank you, everybody. Love you guys. All right, you have a great night. It is now time for the shoutro. Dex, thank you so much for your service.
Yeah, much love. Great show, brother.
It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Larry Halberg and Andrea Ella. friends and they rot and they lost their death row and the peace loving Jesus. I found no Watkins, I saw them all say Penny Lane 87. Vault 1 believer for life and a mercy one and Hoppins in and Tea-Prada. Rizar and Virtual Fugal world and the rest is all the big old world. Reba Snorkel and the Ryan Alter, Austin the Hewitt and the F.I. Shouter, and Dixie Doe and Charlie 64. William Jaruski, I hear you all coming. These are running out of trucks in the California. I have my own Channy Marvy on ya. Right now I got the Anya. Red Dog, Bee Hookers, keep it up. Knowledge, 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 knowledge. Thank you to Kelly2334 for being the top supporter tonight, right behind. Again, thank you so much for the massive support for Sean Michelle Hamilton. Kelly, Kelly, 234, Kelly, Kelly, 234, Kelly, Kelly, 234, Kelly, Kelly, 2334. Kelly, Kelly, 234, Kelly, Kelly, 234, 234, Kelly, Kelly, 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 234, Kelly, 2334, Kelly, 2334, Kelly, 2334, Kelly. I see ya.
Joe that you know, and then the Sonia on the Lola, and I'll bring it back around it, and the Julie on the back around it, Brandon on the Jones, and then the LOL, I'll be a aura with the Kimberly, Charles Henderson, and then the missing me. Question mark island on the island by the sea. On the rover on the mic, Smith.